My kid is too rough. Did you come here because you say that a lot? Or maybe somebody else is telling you that your child is too rough. We're going to talk about it, but first let's get on the same page about what too rough means in our conversation today. So, too rough here means a child who pushes, a child who crashes into things a lot, chews, bites things, who hides in tight spots, who bumps into people and things frequently. Sometimes it seems like they're doing it on purpose, or maybe even falls to the ground on purpose. So we're not talking about a child who is too rough, as in getting with physical altercations with other people. That's important. That's a dysregulation of the nervous system, and it's an important thing to talk about. But today, we're going to talk about it in the context of these things that we just went over. Okay, my name's Heather. I am a mother, a conscious discipline facilitator, an early childhood educator, a longtime YMCA employee. Let's get into it. So, we're all familiar with the five senses, right? Well, did you know that there are three more? The one we're going to talk about today is proprioception. Proprioception. Proprioception is the sense that we develop that helps us know where our body is in space. And developed proprioception looks like, we know how hard to color on the paper with a crayon, or how gentle or not that we need to hold a little animal. It's where we put our hands up to catch a ball. It's knowing the difference in the pressure when we're walking in grass versus on brick. Okay, so do me a favor, if it's safe to do so, just for a second, close your eyes and then take your hand and put it on your nose. Right, take your finger and put it on your chin. Did you do it? That's proprioception, right? You don't have to look to know where your body is in space. You have developed proprioception. So let's put a little disclaimer out here first before we get started. We're going to talk about senses. This is not about diagnosing anybody with a sensory processing disorder. You might have or know a child with a sensory processing disorder. But the thing is, children are still developing their brains. They're still developing all of their senses. So not exclusively, but especially kids under the age of 8 are still really developing this proprioception. They need more input than an older child might need, but we all need proprioceptive input. So let's look at how we're going to give babies some proprioceptive input, and then we're going to talk about different kinds of input. But let's start with babies. Oh, tummy time. That's what that picture was. Tummy time. Tummy time is a way the pressure on the belly provides some proprioceptive input. I thought that was a video. Infant massage is another way that we provide proprioceptive input. Anytime that we put them somewhere that they don't have, that they're not restricted by a bouncy seat or something, is an opportunity to provide proprioceptive input. You can put their feet their tiny feet into your hands and let them press against you, providing that movement and pressure, all things that are helping to develop their proprioceptive input when they're little. And then when they get a little older and they're moving a lot more, we provide movement. Seems a little obvious maybe, right? And it's likely that the child that's in your brain, the reason that you came to watch this video also, is always moving, right? The children who are seeking more proprioceptive input are also usually children that never sit still. So movement might seem kind of obvious, but what we want is to be intentional and purposeful in the movement that we provide. We want them to use their big muscles. We want to provide some pressure to the body when they're stomping, right? So these activity die, I got these in the Target dollar spot last year for $3. You toss them, and then it gives different things for them to do with their body. So there's a lot of fun ways to provide this movement. Let me clarify. If they need more proprioceptive input, their body knows they need it. They are getting it. They're meeting their need by smashing into someone, by falling on the ground, by squeezing a friend too tight. They're getting the proprioceptive input. Our goal is to provide it to them in a safe way, right? And that's where these activities come in. So instead of bumping into things, what I want is this. Instead of tackling a friend, what we're going to do is this. Yoga is a great way to use big muscles and also regulate our nervous system. When we're seeking input, it's a dysregulation. Always our goal is to provide regulation to children. Jump roping, big muscle movement, jumping, hitting the ground, all great ways to provide movement for our children. If you Google brain breaks for kids on Google, you will find hundreds of quick brain breaks that are set to songs. This one right here is 2 minutes long. They provide movement and purposeful, safe movement that gives a lot of that big muscle, that proprioceptive input. This is in a classroom, but obviously you could do this at home. I love this because there's a lot of big muscle movement. There's rhythm, which provides regulation, and they're doing it with pool noodles that you can buy at the Dollar Tree and cut. This is drumming, and you can also find videos for them to drum along with online. 4. Buck 25 makes 2 drumsticks that they can drum on the back of the couch or the table with only being like a fraction of the irritation of your child drumming on something. Right? So weight or resistance is another way that we provide this input. So a great way is to bring your child in to be a helper. What can they carry? What can they help with? Can they move a box? Can they push some furniture? Can they drag a garbage can? Right? We don't want to suck all the fun out of this by demanding that they do chores. Chores and being of service is great for kids. So I don't discourage you from that, right? But if we're trying to meet a need, we don't want the way that we're going to meet it to seem like a punishment. So that's just a little caution there, not a encouragement to not have your child help out around the house, right? Anyway, that's a different video. So weight or resistance, things that they can do around the house that provide pressure. Heavy work, right, is anything that provides resistance with the body. So doing push-ups, right? Providing weight resistance, a child putting their hands on the wall and telling them to move the wall, push, push, push as hard as you can, stomping on the floor, all providing resistance. If you have a exercise ball in your home or even a substantially sized ball, have your child lay on that ball with their belly. They can lay, they can roll. If their hands touch the ground, you can gently put your hand on their back and give them some bounce, right? The pressure on the midsection, safe pressure on the midsection is providing that needed input. And exercise bands, man, these are pretty cheap now. You can get a pack of them. There's a lot of different things they can do with resistance. Obviously, it's also a huge rubber band, and that can go all kinds of ways. So, you know your child best. Wheelbarrow walks and hanging, all ways to provide weight or resistance to your child. In my home, I have a child who needs a lot of movement, and just even as he was growing, needed this input. We have a pull-up bar in one of our doorways in our hallway. It's been there for years, really, and he needs some assistance to get to it, and then he can hang, providing the input that's needed, right? Some other ways that we provide weight are weighted stuffed animals. This one has that sequin stuff on the back that goes side to side, right? These can be pricey. So I have made weighted stuffies before by opening up a little part of the seam, putting a funnel in, putting some rice in, and then you shake it. It just mixes in with the filling. And then if you gotta stitch it up real good so that rice doesn't get through. But you can make your own weighted stuffy. There's weighted blankets, weighted bean bags. Of course, always following all safety measures. It's easy to Google and find the weight to your child's weight ratio, right? There's a very specific maximum weight for the age or size of your child. So be mindful of that. And then deep pressure, we can provide deep pressure with our bodies. If they like deep hugs, if they like to be squeezed, if they like to be squished, then we can provide that pressure for them. This is a fun one. Put a blanket down on the ground, have your child lay on the blanket, and then roll them up really tight like a burrito, right? So they're squished and tight, they're getting that input, and then, put all your ingredients in the burrito by pressing on their belly, and then you can eat them up. Or a hot dog. You can make them a hot dog and put the condiments on and then eat them up. If you have that big ball, have them lay on their belly and you can roll that ball up and down. This can be called cookie dough rollout. We put the ingredients in their back and then like the rolling pin, we roll out the cookie dough. Always being safe of their joints and the pressure that you're putting on, right? We want a willing child. And they love this stuff. So it would be difficult for me to imagine that a child wouldn't want to do any of these fun things, but always doing it with caution. So we're not going to talk about proprioceptive avoiding behavior because this is about kids that are too rough, but it's worth mentioning that some children are overwhelmed by too much of this input. They're covering their ears a lot. Maybe they don't like slime or the way that their clothes feel. So there's certainly more information you can get about that. I highly encourage you, if this was interesting to you at all, or if you have a child that kind of fits this, go Google proprioception. I mean, there are experts out there that have a lot of content online about proprioception, but you got to know what you're looking for, right? So Google it. It's very interesting. Our biggest takeaway is this. When our children are being too rough, we feel like, oh, could you calm down? Could you sit still, right? Our child is saying, help me calm down. When they are being too rough, their body has a need that needs met. And when we stop them, sit still, keep your hands to yourself, stop being so rough, we are stopping them from getting the need met. That the need doesn't go away, right? The frustration that it all grows, right? If you're hungry and you don't feed yourself, the hunger doesn't go away. Eventually, you're going to have to feed yourself, right? It's the same thing. We need to regulate them. We need to give them. It is okay to not want them to be rough, to not want them to wrestle a friend, or bump into things. It is okay to want them to be still once in a while. We just need to remember that we need to meet the need so that they can sit still. If a child can't sit still, they can't sit still. If a child is too rough, in most cases, many cases, they need some rough input, right? Children do well when they can. So sometimes it's just up to us to investigate what their behavior is communicating to us so we can figure out what to do. So the next time you're feeling like, oh, calm down, sit still, just then remind yourself, okay, I need to provide some safe, appropriate proprioceptive input and movement so that their nervous system can be regulated and they can sit still. Last, I don't have to tell you this, but I'm going to anyway. You are the wisest advocate for your child. Nobody knows your child more. And sometimes when we are told by other people, caregivers or teachers with the very best intentions, right? They want our child to be successful. Sometimes when we're told things like your child's too rough, it's hard to hear, right? And we don't know what to do. what are we going to do while they're at school, right? You're the parent. You're in charge of what's happening outside of school, but there's little that you can do in school. But here's what we can do is we can be an advocate for our child, to say, yeah, you know what? He needs a lot of proprioceptive input. He needs a lot of rough and tumble. And I know it's not safe in school. So maybe we can meet and talk about some ways that they can get it. Maybe your child's caregiver or classroom is willing to put a medicine ball, a weighted workout ball in the classroom that your child can pick up, that they can, if it's not too heavy, that they can put on their own body, that they can sit on their lap. Like, there are ways to do heavy work. There are appropriate ways to work this into any schedule and any environment. So know that as an advocate for your child, it's always appropriate for you to say, yeah, there's a need being met. We should never assume that that everybody has all of the information, right? We are a team, parents and caregivers united, helping to figure this out together, because our goal is always, we want the best for our child. So you've got this. Until next time, I'm wishing you well.